Anna Grechishkina traveled around the world on her KTM for over 8 years until February 2022, when her home country, Ukraine, was fully invaded by Russia. She decided to break off her trip, store her motorcycle in Namibia, and travel directly into the war zone. She exchanged her motorcycle helmet for a steel helmet and joined the army. In this podcast, Anna looks back on 3 years of defending her country. She talks about how important freedom is to her, how her perspective has changed, and why she wants to travel by motorbike again one day. At the end of the interview, we also mention the 6 in 16 rally, a campaign by Egle on the Road. Egle is currently riding from Spain to Ukraine on a motorbike to raise awareness and money. If you are interested in this, you can find the link in the show notes and on Pegasoreise.de.
Pegasoreise. Expeditionen mit den Ohren.
Welcome to Pegasoreise. My name is Claudio and today I'm talking to Anna Grechishkina in the Ukraine. Hello, Anna.
Hello, Claudio. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you again after so long time. It has been 3 years ago that we've talked with each other. I remember it was the situation when you were in Namibia after, I think, 9 years of traveling around the world. After a long time traveling.
Yeah, it was almost 9 years, actually 8 years, 8 months, as far as I remember. Yeah, so it was a very difficult choice.
Yes. The war just had started some weeks ago when Russia invaded Ukraine. A situation nobody knew what will happen next. Will they take it over in some days or not, or what? And you were thinking, will I go back to Ukraine or not? And yeah, I think some days later you made a decision to come to Ukraine. Now you are already 3 years in the Ukraine, and I would like to talk with you about all this time. And perhaps we start with it. If you describe what happened or how did you feel in April 2022 when you returned to Ukraine?
Yeah, as I said, it was a really difficult decision because I was not planning to go back anytime soon because I still wanted to finish my second circle around the world. That was my idea, and I was actually halfway through. So, and then when this full-scale war started, because the actual war, as many know, started actually not in 2022, but in 2014.
Yes.
Yeah, but in 2022, Russia decided to try to invade the whole Ukraine. Their plan was to do that in 3 days. Well, now it's more than 3 years, and they're still going strong. Well, but anyway, so at that time I decided that now I have to make a decision because to continue traveling like I did, it would feel wrong and not according to my values. And but still it was difficult. Actually I came to Namibia 2 days before the war started, before this full-scale war started. And I was shocked, to be honest, even though all the signs showed that it might start. But until the last day, I really had this hope that it will not happen. So when it happened, it was really like a big shock, and I didn't know what to do. And I went to the seaside in Namibia just, to next to the ocean to hear that voice, what it will tell me what to do. And after a month or so, I decided that the best decision will be to go back. So I left my motorcycle there in Namibia at friend's garage. It's still there. Yeah, and I came back. So I didn't ride all the way back because it would take long. And actually at that time I thought, okay, now it sounds a little bit funny, even though it's not funny. I was afraid to be late for the war. Can you imagine?
Oh,
So that I will come and everything will be over with the victory of Ukraine, of course. So I was talking with some of my friends and military friends, and one of them said, "Hey, don't worry, the war will be enough for everyone." But I was like really in a hurry,
It really sounds strange.
To witness this and to be a part of this. I mean, to contribute in some way, So I was really in a hurry. So I left my bike quickly and I took a flight to Germany, then from Germany by train to Poland and then to Kiev. And I remember that I was crossing the border in train. It was midnight already. And I was counting. So how much turned out to be 8 years, 8 months and 8 days.
Oh.
So that was like, oh, wow. Does it mean anything? Something? Yeah. And the next morning I was in Kiev and it was almost empty. Just the roadblocks, a lot of military people. And even though it was April, but it felt like winter time, It was so cold and it was so uncomfortable.
Can we perhaps just go a little bit back to this situation when you were in the train going to Ukraine? I think also that is strange because so many people left in these days Ukraine, fleeing from the war, and you probably was one of the less people that are going the opposite way into the war zone, into Ukraine. And were there other people also in this train?
There were a few people, very few. Yeah, actually, by that time, it was already a little bit more than a month. And most of people that wanted to leave, they already left by that time. I mean, like the majority, of course, people were leaving little by little. But definitely very few people were going back. And I remember that actually one of those few people that were in my compartment, like in the train, was a young lady, was a little girl, her daughter, maybe 5 or 6 years old. And for me, it was so strange. Like, why are you going back to Kiev, to Ukraine, to the war zone? There was, it was
with a child,
like very surreal, and they were sitting like behind me. And there was the point that I could hear their conversation, even though they were talking like very, very quietly. And then at some point, the little girl asked her Mom, are they going to kill us? And for me, that was like a cold shower, At that point, I realized, and I've seen that the face of the war, just right in front of me. I mean, like 5-year-old little girl should not be questioning, this. And for me, it was just, oh my God. And at that moment, I realized that my decision is correct. I have to go and I have to do something, because even though like sitting in the train, I was still, like doubting, is it the right decision or not? Because it would be just the final decision, But that like little episode, it just showed me that yes, this is definitely correct. And up until now, I realized that I never regretted this decision, even though it was tough. It is still tough to be here, and especially that later on I decided to join the army, even though that wasn't my initial plan, to be honest. But it happened, and here I am, 3 years later, still in Ukraine, facing the road immensely, and I cannot even explain how much.
Yeah, you said it was not your plan to go into the army, your initial plan. Did you have an initial plan, an idea? What will you do when you come to Ukraine?
To be honest, no. And as I said, I was in touch with some of my Ukrainian friends, and one of my best friend, he passed away. He was killed. I mean, the military person, and he was organizing them. It's not like the army unit, but like voluntary units, of the people who are not soldiers, but who are actually helping to defend, like Kiev at that moment. So I was always like in touch with him and asking him, so if I come back, what should I do? How I will contribute. And he always told me that, hey, if you decide to come, there will be plenty of work for you to do. So just come if you wish. But he never pushed me, he never convinced me. So once I came, I joined this unit, which was not like close to the military, but not like officially military. And I stayed there like a couple of months. But then I decided that actually that's not really my thing, because there was not much action, so to say. And by that time, the Kiev became a little bit safer place, so that the Russians moved away a little bit further, So after that, I did some. So I decided, okay, because I'm a traveler, so why don't I travel in Ukraine and actually show to the world what is happening? And that's what I did. A little bit on the motorcycle, a little bit by car. And then
so
I did
you had a motorcycle again in Ukraine because you left your KTM in Namibia. So did you organize a motorcycle there?
Well, I had my kind of old Kawasaki Vulcan 900 motorcycle, 900. Yeah. So I was riding it before I got KTM. So it's like my old body, so to say. Yeah. So it was also very interesting, to see this bike again. We traveled a lot together. It's like also really dear to my heart. So, so I've been a journalist a little bit, kind of, and I've been a volunteer a little bit. So I was trying to raise some funds for civilians and more for the army and for some of the units. So I was getting acquainted with more and more of them. And when I was meeting them and, listening to their stories and kind of feeling their emotions, I felt deep inside of me that I also want to be a part of the army. I didn't know where it was coming from, because I had no connection to anything like connected with the military world, and I'm a very peaceful person, and I don't like all this kind of thing, and especially that the army is the limitation of the freedom,
Yes.
in the most profound way, So again, that was kind of difficult decision, and it took me some time to make a decision to do that. But then it just happened this way as a coincidence that my help was needed in one of the units, and actually my skills that I gained on the road, meaning speaking Spanish, Portuguese, and at that time, some Latin American volunteers started to come to Ukraine. And of course, like people who could speak their language were much needed, and I was asked for help. And little by little, I became actually a part of that unit officially. And so I started to work with the Colombians, then with Brazilians. And so later on, I became sort of their commander, and we did some missions together, some operations, and it was really, really unexpected. Even now that I'm trying to recollect and explain to myself how did it all happen, I don't know. I just believe in in everything happening for a reason, not as a coincidence. And I'm trying. How do I explain it to you? Not to go with the flow, definitely not. But kind of to accept what it comes, to see the signs, and to react accordingly. Like somehow deep inside of your heart, you can understand what is the right way. And at that time, I knew that was my way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but just before you joined really the army, you said you were traveling around a little bit like a journalist on your old motorbike. I think you found in Ukraine, which must be very different from the Ukraine you left 8 years before. So, what were your impressions of this country now in a war, even though you were perhaps more in those zones in the western part, which are not so affected, but I think also the whole country must be in a way different than it was in the times when it was not a full-scale war like now.
Well, at the time when I wanted to travel, and when I traveled a bit, so I didn't go mostly to the west parts, but actually to the parts that were affected by the war. Because for me,
Mm.
It was very important to show the reality, to the whole world, that we are in the real war and that we need support of the world. So that was my idea, and to collect the stories of people, who were affected by the war, but actually everyone was affected, in one way or another. And photograph some of the consequences, some of the destruction, but also to show a glimpse of hope and to show the spirit of Ukrainians, just to show this both sides, that we are, yes, Russia tries to invade us, but we are not victims. We are warriors, and we stand for our freedom, for our democracy, and for our values. So that was my point, actually. And I was extremely proud of my people and of my country, Even though this almost 9 years that I was away, I cannot say that I was so much homesick, And it's not that I don't like my country or my people, but I think that people are all different. And my nature is a kind of the nature of nomad, So I feel that I really don't belong to just one particular place, even though it's Ukraine, even though it's a country that I was born, but I really belong to the world, So when I am far away from one country, I cannot say that I miss it, Yes, I'll be happy, I'll be glad to go back, but when I'm away, I'm fine, So, but when I come to Ukraine, I really discovered it again, for myself, and mostly the spirit of people, And while traveling the world, I think I always mentioned this in my social media, that for me, it was always like the most important is to meet people, that I'm meeting. Like the highlights were the stories that I was hearing, people that I was meeting, sharing exchanges, stories and dreams, with them. So that was always the most important part. There, in traveling around the world, and this time traveling around Ukraine. So, I was very proud. Definitely, I was very devastated about what is happening. But then, this motivation to stay and to contribute in every way I can, it was just growing.
Can you perhaps describe one person of the persons you've met in this time, perhaps a portrait you did, or just to have an imagination what it was to meet people in the time of war?
Yeah, like there was one day that I was traveling actually with that friend of mine who was the commander of the battalion, and because we are really close friends, so he accompanied me sometimes in this, little adventures. So we came to one of the villages that was really, really heavily affected by the war, and many houses that were destroyed by the missiles. And we were just driving around, seeing with our own eyes. And then I've seen this old lady, and she was just doing some work in her garden, and there was like a little, not even that like the house, but this little cabin, that is constructed like very quickly. So we stopped and we started just chatting with her, and it turned out that her house that she used to live with her husband, it was destroyed like completely with the missile. So, and just volunteers, they just helped her with this little cabin that she could stay. And she said that, I could go back somewhere, or I could go to my children, in another country. But she said that this is my home and I cannot leave it, And there was like this big hole from the missile, like there, and she was planting the vegetables there, just in this hole.
Okay.
And I was like, this was one way. It was devastating. So on one hand, there were like the remnants of the house that was just destroyed, just the platform was left, and on the other side, in this big hole, there were like plants already growing, and it was just, I just understood again and again that the spirit of these people cannot be broken, because even in such situation, they can find, something to live for, and they can actually plant life. This is something that cannot be destroyed.
Yes, what a wonderful picture to plant something new in the crater of a bomb, which meant death. So there's something new growing out of it, new life.
Yeah, and this is the difference between us and them. For them, it is so easy to destroy everything. They don't feel the value of life. They don't feel the value of something creative. But on our part, we create. We welcome life. And even amidst all the destruction and all the horrors and everything, we are trying to restore, even now, even though the war is still ongoing and getting worse. But we are restoring, we are planting, we are giving birth, because life continues. And that's how it should be. And we have no doubt that we will not lose our identity, we will not lose our country, and we will not lose our sovereignty.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that that really Ukrainians are very strong in this situation. And I remember in that time we were posting that it's also winter is coming, and you didn't have all the gear you normally have for motorcycles. No, you had a helmet, but not warm jacket, and so I think this also was a little bit tough to ride in this cold time.
Well, when I was riding, it was more like already getting warmer, So as to the winter gear, I was kind of collecting stuff for my military identity already. So, like also the helmet and body armor and etc., but not for the motorcycle, but for the trainings and for the operations. So. So yeah, now that I remember, that when you are traveling, you have to think about that kind of equipment, motorcycle equipment. But when you're in the army, you're also thinking about the equipment for the military equipment.
Oh, okay.
Also about the helmet and about the warm gloves and warm boots and everything.
Okay, are there perhaps some similarities between motorcycle gear and being a soldier?
Well, maybe in a way. I didn't think about it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I have never joined the army. I don't know very much about it, but I thought perhaps the army itself will provide all the stuff you need.
It does, but it's more like basic stuff. So if you want something of high quality, then of course you have to provide it for yourself.
Okay.
And of course, like every little thing, it can save your life. So of course, you cannot just rely on something that is provided to you by the army. So like many soldiers, that as soon as they receive the salary, they try to upgrade the equipment. So basically, money that we receive from the government, we invest back into the stuff that we will need for the war.
What stuff did you need when you started to be in the army? What did you upgrade? What are the things you are thinking about?
Well, again, that's the equipment, and I would say that half of my wardrobe. It used to be like the motorcycle equipment. Now, this is the military equipment. So I always try to upgrade according to the season, according to the situation that I am in. And then also when I came back, I didn't know how to drive a car, So for all these years, I was just a motorcycle rider. But then when I came back, I realized that now the car will be like very much necessary, because it's not just for the comfort, but also you have to take a lot of stuff closer to the front line and back. And then I decided that I have to get the car and I have to get the license. And that's what I did.
You didn't have a car driving license in that time?
No. No. So I started to ride a motorcycle in 2000. When was it? Oh my God. 2005. Oh my God. It was more than 20 years ago. And I got my driving license just in 2022, actually. Yeah. So, yeah, funny enough. Yeah, so all the investments now is back into the army and back into the war. Sometimes, not sometimes, but very often you have to fix this car, because definitely you buy it not new. and not in a good condition, but like something cheaper, but then it just breaks down, and now I think it's finished already. Yeah. So it's it's basically it's everything about upgrading.
Okay, so after some time, then came the moment when you said, "Okay, I will join the army. I will go there." Even though you have been a person with, you said, peaceful person, and also traveling around the world, having a lot of freedom, and as you said, no, I imagine that the army is the opposite of freedom, because then you are inside a system where you cannot decide so many things or say, okay, I will stay longer here, or go home, or whatever. Then you are in a very strict system. How was it for you to join the army?
Yeah, I will comment on the first parts of your question, like being a peaceful person, right? And just immediately this phrase of a famous person came into my mind. So if you want peace, prepare for the war. So being peaceful actually doesn't mean that you will not fight. And again, there was like one video in internet, like what was Keanu Reeves, I think. It was something like, he was talking with another actress or something, and she was saying, I'm not a fighter, I'm a lover. And he said, but how come, like, okay, if you're a lover, you have to fight for what you love, So actually, like, fighting and being ready to protect what you love is actually the proof that your love is strong. So for me, being peaceful means to protect peace, and to fight for peace. Yeah. Joining the army, as I said, it was more like at that time kind of coincidence. Yeah, but definitely it was not coincidence. It was just there. Like the universe showed me like that I have to follow this way, this path. Well, now I'm almost 2.5 years in this system, in the army. It's still very difficult. And sometimes I discover the sides of the system that I could not imagine, like being like totally civilian person. Like when I joined the army, I could not foresee what I will go through. And now that I go back in my memories and the situation that I'm currently in, I think that if I knew how it would be, I would think actually twice or 3 times if I want this. But also now I understand that this is such an experience that I would not have had otherwise if I hadn't joined the army. It really trains also your spirits and your resilience and your sense of discipline and sense of, sometimes we think that we are always in control, especially for us travelers, right? We are free spirits. We can go wherever we want. We can do whatever we want, and I felt this way for this almost 9 years. If I didn't like something, I could just hop on my bike and leave,
Yeah.
If I don't like the place, if I don't like the people, I'm just off I go,
Yes.
So I just didn't, I didn't tolerate the bullshit, But there are situations that not everything is under your control. Yeah. And definitely you learn this also while traveling. But now I learned this in the most profound way, I guess. And sometimes you really have to accept some of the restrictions for the higher purpose, and actually to train yourself as well. So I think that was good for me. It is good for me still, but of course I'm looking forward to gain my freedom back.
Okay.
Definitely. I understand that some people, they find themselves in the army and they realize that they can be part of the system and they want to grow and they want to get a career here. That's not about me for sure. So as soon as the war is over, I'm out of there.
Okay, I can understand this. And when you started to join the army, did you have to make first a kind of training to train and learn how to use a weapon or other things like this?
Yeah, actually, you have to train always, because, well, first of all, the war is developing. And now, like in 2025, this war is different from how it was in 2022. Now technology is really improving. And now the biggest asset of the war are the drones, So you really have to learn. So if you are one step behind of the enemy, then you are losing. So you really have to train always. Yeah. So, and that's what I'm trying to do. Just recently, I went to the drone course. Extremely difficult because my mind is just is not wired this way. But if before we were saying that every person should learn at least a little bit to shoot, from the rifle, then now every person should operate a drone.
Okay, so then you joined the army. How was it to get into the system of army? What do you do the first days when you're there?
Well, as I said initially, I came here to help with letting American volunteers. So the first month I was not officially in the army, so I was like in the process of getting in, because it's quite a long process in that structure and in that unit that I was part of. So it was like getting in like slowly in my case, and then after several months, like the contracts of those Brazilians that I worked with were signed, and we started. We left Kiev, the base in Kiev, and we went to the regions of their operations. So that was already like very tough, very different, and you just had to concentrate all your willpower, and just to do your thing, And now that I'm recollecting those days, I think that I don't know. I just tried to kind of shut down from all the emotions around, and I just did what I was supposed to do, to do what I was meant to do, to help them, to be their leader, to make their stay in Ukraine as good as possible, in the situation. And they started to consider me as a leader, and to trust me. And that was really great. And I think that in some way I contributed to their, to their better stay here, and maybe in some way help them to stay alive. I don't know if I may say so, but yeah. Then many things changed. It's difficult to describe everything, and no need. It's just some things are really like positive. Some things are heartbreaking because you come across a lot of losses. Your friends, like people that are very close to you, they get killed. They get missing. It's very difficult. To get used to it, and even to. It's very, very difficult to explain, to be honest. But in some way, you just realize that now this is your reality, and what can you do? You can break down, you can give up, or you can continue for the sake of people around you who still need you, for the sake of yourself, and for the sake of the future that you still believe in. So I think that. I really got stronger after I came back to Ukraine, even though I considered myself as a strong person, like traveling. And I thought that it's not so easy to travel, especially around the world, and you really need some skills and some toughness. But this is nothing compared to what you go through when you're in the war and when you're part of the army as well. So these are very different things, and I think that I learned so much, like being away from the road and just doing these things that I'm doing now.
Yeah, it must be a very tough experience. I remember when I was in Brazil 2 years ago, there were people remembering you when you were there, also in Belém and Manaus. And yeah, and so I found it very funny, but also strange when I saw a post of you with Brazilian and South American soldiers there. I didn't know that there are so many volunteers, even from a country so far away, coming voluntary to the Ukraine to fight in the army. Are there many volunteers from other countries? I didn't know that.
Yes, and I feel such a huge respect and admiration for these people because they don't have to come, It's not their country and it's not even close to their country, So when I see Colombians and Brazilians and citizens of other countries here, I just want, just to really, I don't know, to bow down, in front of them. And many of them are getting killed, because they come to the real stuff. It's not just, just for traveling or just to see things. They really join the army. They are treated as normal soldiers. They are sent to the front line, and that's what they come here for, And again, some of the episodes and some of the stories were so interesting. I cannot even explain that. Like in my first Brazilian unit, so there was the guy who joined the team, and I could notice that he was kind of, in a very kind of precise way, and I was thinking like, why is it so? And what it turned out to be that when I was traveling in Brazil and I was passing through his town, and he was following me, at that time, and he wanted to meet, but he was a little bit shy, so he didn't send me a message. We didn't meet at that time, and now he came to Ukraine to fight for Ukraine, and here our roads crossed. This is incredible. It's not that he came because I was in that unit, because it was not visible on the social media or anywhere, and it was just like that. We didn't meet on the road like when I was in Brazil, when I was a traveler, but we met here in Ukraine when we were both soldiers in the same unit. This is just this is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, really incredible.
Yeah. So. But now, if before, I was some people knew me in Brazil because I was traveling there. So now, more and more Brazilians come, and I continue working with them. And now they know me as a commander of the military unit, international unit. And it's just, a change of perspective, so and change of identity. So before I was Anna, a traveler, now I'm Anna, the military person, so it's so incredible, Sometimes I think that life is much more interesting than any movie that you can imagine or create.
Yes. If you would make a movie out of this, people would say perhaps this is too much fantasy inside a movie.
Yeah, exactly. Too much fantasy, but at least there will be something to write about in the book.
Yeah. You're writing a new book. You already published one about your journey, and you're working on a new book.
I started to write a new book, yes. Even though sometimes I feel that I don't have much inspiration or I don't have enough resources, inner power for that. But I started that. I don't know when it will be finished, but I want it to be like the mix of two stories, traveling and the war. I don't know how it will turn out later on, but I have this vision, and let's see how it goes. So yeah.
Okay. So,
but I have this little project, or maybe not so little. So it helps me to get distracted sometimes, when it feels really tough.
For somebody like me who has never served in the army and don't have a good imagination what it means to be on a front line fighting in a war, can you perhaps describe one day? How is a day when you are in the army with the people as a commander?
I would say that for people who were not in the army, just don't go there. There's nothing good there, to be honest, especially for people who really like freedom and who cannot be part of the system. It's difficult. It's hard to explain. You just have to be inside to understand this, and especially still. There are many Soviet-minded people in the army, Soviet style, so to say, not very flexible. And sometimes that frustrates me and many of my friends and many of my contacts. Because even though we live in the modern world and it's been many years since the Soviet Union fell apart, right? But still there is somehow this mentality, in such rigid systems as army, And so the problem or the difference is that since 2022, a lot of civilian people got inside of the army, with their skills, with their mindset, with their different vision of the system, of the army, of the world. And they try to bring in their ideas, but then they come across the resistance, from the system, how it is now. Yeah. And this clash, and I really experienced this, in the perfect way, because I am part of that civilian, world, and I'm trying to bring in my vision. I cannot just comply with the orders of some commanders just because they are commanders. If I don't understand this command, or if I don't agree with this order, and if I feel that this is the crime order, and if it will affect my people, then I'm questioning. I'm not just yes, sir. No, that's not about me. Okay. And that's why sometimes I come across serious conflicts, with some of the commanders, to be honest. And this is really frustrating, to be honest, because I've never been to the NATO army, in US, somewhere else, but probably it's very different, and I would love, to have this comparison. But what I see now, in this army, some of the things are changing, but it's just happening so slowly, that oh my God, sometimes I feel giving up, not even because of the war situation, but because of the situation in the army, that you can do things, you have some vision of how to work with people or how to make things more efficient, and then you just don't have this opportunity. Because you're just a little part of the system and you don't have the proper rank to do that. And then things go as they go. Okay. So I think that for me, this is the biggest challenge. And that's why, when some of the people, especially the girls, the ladies, they ask me, how would it be possible for us to join the army, and how it is there? I try to convince them not to do that. Please don't go. This is not for you. The same as with the foreigners. I understand that many of them who will come here, they will never go back home. So I always try to talk them out of this. Because to make this decision, you really have to understand all the consequences. I think that when I joined, I didn't understand all that. I just followed the flow, and even though I never regret it, but still this is a very hard road, and I would never advise this to anyone. But on the other hand, if the situation is like this, that you have to defend what you love, then you have to do this, then there is no other choice. It's just like this. If out of a curiosity, joining the army or not, I would say just don't. But if this is the only way to protect what you love, then do this and never turn back, never doubt of your decision. Then do it, as well as you can, as with all your passion, as with all your heart.
In this 2.5 years, more or less, that you are now in Ukraine and especially in the army, as I heard, you also changed sometimes your position where you are serving and what you are doing. So what were the stages? What were the different jobs you did in the army?
Well, it's not about the stages, but as I mentioned, I had like different sort of misunderstanding or some conflicts, with the commanderships, like that we had different views, on some things. And that's why sometimes I just had to transfer from one unit to another, just to try other things, and to try to find a better place, for myself and for the people. So that was like mainly the main reason. So it's not about like making a career or something else. It's more just about trying to find my place in the system and to try to make it as comfortable for myself as possible and to creating a better place for the people that I'm in charge of. So right now I am right in this kind of situation. I also work with the Latin Americans and mostly with Brazilians. I don't know. It's just like my specialty. I don't know why. It's just their mentality is very close to my heart, and I really like their ways, and their culture, and just them as as people. So right now I work with them as well. It's not the same team that I started with, but another one, a bigger one. And there are some issues again with the commandership, with some of the mechanisms of work with this unit. Because I think and I feel that I know better how to work with them just because I've been to Brazil, I speak Portuguese, I have trust of these people. And it's very difficult to explain this to some of the commanders, to some
so
parts
really
of the system.
An intercultural challenge.
Yeah, that should be taken into account, that we are now in the different war, different army, and you should not just follow the rules that existed like for many, many years and decades. We should change, and we should change our mind, first of all. So I feel that I am a fighter, not just in the war against Russians, but also I am a fighter against the system inside of my own country.
Oh, okay.
It kind of it adds up a pressure on my mind, first of all. But well, maybe that's my mission. I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps. I have a little vision of how Brazil and the Brazilians have their lifestyle. My father was a Brazilian, I have relatives in Brazil. But I would like to ask you, how would you describe the differences or even the similarities between people from Brazil and Ukraine, especially in such a situation?
I really don't know what can be similar between Brazilians and Ukrainians.
Okay.
Maybe I like them so much. Well, I would say, of course there are similarities. I think that the similarity is the passion. Yeah, like we have the passion, to fight for what we love. And Brazilians, they're very passionate people, very cheerful, but also like very strong. It's not just about like, ha ha ha, he. No, it's like they're really like strong-minded people. And I really, I've been in the combats with them, and I've been in very difficult situations, like shoulder to shoulder with them. And I felt so much confidence, they never left me behind, and they always protected me as a woman. I was the only woman like with them, like going out to the front line.
Oh.
And it was really impressive. I felt very comfortable, like on the personal level and on the military level, so they're cheerful, they're nice, they're easygoing on one hand, and they're very tough on the other hand. That's what I like about them. Like Ukrainians, like they are more like reserved and maybe cold, as all Europeans, I would say, right? But I think we have this passion deep in our heart, and it shows once in a while. And in this kind of circumstances that we are in, our passion shows in the best way, of course. So that's what like clicks between us, between Ukrainians and Brazilians, Latin Americans. And I think this cooperation is quite good. Of course, there are problems, and I'm trying on my way to fix them somehow, or at least to scream about the changes that have to happen. And I really hope that I will succeed in some ways.
In the beginning, when you returned to Ukraine and started to go into this war, I've read that in Kharkiv you've wrote you were looking back on 9 years traveling around the world with all the beauty, which was like a dream, and now you woke up in a nightmare, the nightmare of a land in war. Would you today still describe the situation as a nightmare?
Well, that's a good question. We just had just a few days ago, we had a really big attack on Kiev and on many other cities, actually. That was the night attack. Well, that's normally how it happens. And this attack was really one of the toughest that I've remembered. So it started late at night and it continued until the morning. So the whole night, the bombings were nonstop. The drones, the missiles, all types of the stuff that Russia was sending over. So you cannot describe this otherwise as a nightmare, And then in the morning, of course, we got to know about all the killed and people and injured ones, and so much destruction. And it is a nightmare. It is. It continues like this. It's just, of course, we always have this light of hope, this light at the end of the tunnel. Well, that's why we keep going strong, because we have this faith, because we know what we fight for, And I think that, the Russians, they think that in this way of terrorizing, they can make us surrender, right? Or they can make us scared, or they can make us stay unwilling to stand this anymore, these bombings and this suffering. But actually, all this has just the opposite effect, that we are getting even stronger and even more resilient to fight against this evil, So, yes, we live in that nightmare all these years. But we do our best to wake up to better times. And I'm sure that they will come sooner or later. Maybe not so soon, because if before I was scared that I will be late for the war, now I'm not scared of that anymore.
Okay. Yes. What I heard in the news in the last days here in Germany was that Russia is not so successful at the front line, and because of that, perhaps they are now more putting terror on the people, on the civilians, bombing normal houses and hospitals, and so and trying on this way to make the people in Ukraine weak. Is this also your perspective?
Not really, because it's been their strategy since the beginning, terrorizing the civilians.
Okay.
In parallel to the front line. So, as I said, in this way, they're trying to make people surrender, and to make civilian people get pressure on the government that they surrender. But definitely it will not happen. So this terrorizing the civilians has been their strategy and their tactics since the beginning. Well, unfortunately, they are advancing on the front line, and they have some success as well, just because there are too many, and they have unlimited resources. So even though we have great motivation and a great spirit to fight, but our numbers of people are lower, right? That's why they can afford, just to waste so much human power, We cannot afford this, and fortunately, we are doing our best to protect our people and to save their lives. But for them, they don't feel the value of life, even the life of their people, which is like really, really frustrating. And this is something that it's hard to understand. And to be honest, I don't want to understand this. Yeah.
Yeah, but you still keep on fighting, keep on serving in the army. And what I also have learned now is that you also have some free time, that you can come back to Kiev, or have some time to do other things. I've seen a post.
Well, I'm in Kiev.
Yeah.
I'm in Kiev not because of the free time. It's just we have our other base, like here around Kiev. So now part of my job is here, part of my service. I hope that it will not be for a long time, because I always like to be closer to the front line and closer to the action. I just feel like more immersed, into all that. Yeah, but sometimes you just have to slow down and also to do other things, which are also very important. So, and as I said, like now there is like a bit of turbulence period, within the unit that I'm serving, and I'm trying to fix some of the things that don't go like very smoothly with the foreigners. So this is also part of the reason why I am in Kiev. So even though I have a little bit of free time, but like mentally, it's a bit of pressure. Because I'm trying to figure out what else I could do, like the meetings, some, propositions in the form of documents. And, but, well, I hope that there is some solution to some of the issues within the system.
Yeah. Okay. And I saw that you posted on Instagram that you had some days or weeks ago the opportunity to ride again a little bit on your old motorbike.
It was just one weekend, so I got my bike, and actually I had to go to one of the meetings, with another unit, and I decided, okay, why not to why not to do this on the motorcycle? So, and there were like some little roads, very scenic. So yeah, that was very enjoyable, and I remember those old times that I was on my KTM, and just all these memories came back, and that was precious. Oh my God. Yeah, but I do believe that one day I will get back to my KTM. It's still in Namibia, it's still in the same garage. So once in a while, I'm checking how is it going. Well, it seems like the bike is fine. Well, and who knows, maybe on one of my vacations that, I have even in army, maybe I could fly to Namibia like for a week or so and just to see it, maybe just to have a couple of thousands of miles on the bike.
That would be very good.
That might be great.
Yeah.
Something to dream about.
Yeah, you keep on dreaming, and that's very good. I also asked my listeners, so what would you ask Anna when I'm talking with you? And Alex, an Iranian who's living in Austria, sends greetings to you. I can imagine that now these days, especially our Iranian people have similar feelings about living now in a war like Ukraine. Even the situation is totally different, but I think there is some kind of solidarity. Yeah,
thank you. Greetings back to everyone, to all the listeners, and thank you for joining in. It's been a while since I showed up actually on the social media, and it's just, as I said, I didn't feel like, sometimes you feel like you want to hide in your little like hole somewhere and just to forget about everything. But I realized that I also have some kind of responsibility for my audience, and actually that I didn't show up on the Facebook and Instagram for some weeks, and then I started to receive messages. How are you? We are worried. Are you all right? Are you safe? Are you alive? So I realized that it's not just about me. It's about people who care, who worry about me, and I really appreciate that. So thank you so much to everyone.
Yeah, even the question, are you still alive, is very important. Carsten asks, what does Ukraine expect to gain from this war?
Well, we don't want to gain anything. We just want to keep, our freedom and to keep our country, to keep our identity. We don't want to, to gain anything else. We don't need anything that is not ours. We just want to protect what is ours, and this is enough. That's it.
Yes, very simple. And Frank Motoshed asks, what does the war do to you, and how will you deal with it in the peaceful future? Or perhaps, in other words, what do you think? There will be a peaceful future in the future, hopefully. And what do you think? How this war and this experience you had in the last 3 years will change you?
Well, it already changed, and definitely there are already the scars, of the war. First of all, in the mental health, and I can feel it already. And the war is not over yet, and we don't know when it will be over. So it's very difficult to foresee how it will be in the future, in the peaceful time. Because I'm trying even not to think about it. Because as I said, we just have to do our stuff right now and right here. Right? So, but these scars of the war, they will be still there after the war as well, for many more years, and for some people more. And I feel that my mission will be to help to recover to those people who will feel it in a worse way, And now that I feel that, because I understand them, I understand people who went through the war and the soldiers who went through the tough part. So I feel that I could help in my little way. So I'm really prepared to gain all the experience that I can now, so that to use it later on to help people to recover.
Okay. A question which I was thinking about is, do you think it's still possible, or perhaps again possible in the moment, to do a motorcycle ride in Ukraine, in Western Ukraine, where there is not, which is not so much infected by the war?
Yes, absolutely. Not just in the West, but also like in some central parts. And I know that some of the travelers and foreigners, not just travelers, but civilians, they come. Some come to help, to volunteer. Some come just to see things and to report, in their countries. So definitely that's not safe. And you have to be aware that there is no safe place in Ukraine. So, but for those courageous souls who want, they're welcome to come, because I think that the world needs more information and more awareness of what is happening, especially that now that there are so much tension and conflicts in other parts of the world as well. And we can feel that the attention is a bit drawn from Ukraine, which is not good for us. So I would kindly ask to keep focus on Ukraine still, still to keep this focus, and just to be aware of what is happening. Because also I heard from some of the friends who are traveling, like sometimes to other countries, mostly females, that sometimes they are asked, by people from those countries. So is the war still going on? So these questions, they make me feel a little bit frustrated. That people tend to forget, and which is normal. You cannot just keep focus on bad things constantly, because you will just get crazy. I understand this perfectly, but we cannot deal with this just on our own. We really need support. we still need support.
Yes, yes. Are you in contact with Egle on the road, Egle Geray, a female traveler who's now planning to also do a ride from Spain to Ukraine, also to raise awareness and raise money?
She sent me a message, but it was like some months ago, actually, and she told me that she will have this ride, and hopefully that we can meet. Because at that time I was not sure in which part of Ukraine I will be. So it was difficult to plan, such in advance. But definitely we will get in touch and see where we can cross our roads. That would be incredible to meet her.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Anna, I'm so thankful that you took the time to talk with me, to talk to our audience, to explain a little bit about your situation, about the situation in Ukraine, especially from your perspective as a traveler, as a motorbike traveler. And I've learned a lot with you and from you, and I hope that you will not remain so much time, that Ukraine will not remain so much time in this nightmare, but hopefully this war will end soon, and peace and especially justice will come back to Ukraine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Claudia. It was nice to talk to you, and thank you for your time and for your questions, and thank you for the greetings from the listeners, from your audience, and thank you for the attention to Ukraine. It's very important to keep this awareness, and I really appreciate that. So thank you, and keep in touch. Hopefully we can meet one day personally.
Yeah, that would be very nice. I also would so much like to ride to Ukraine one day, and I hope that in future it will be possible to ride into Ukraine, and then to meet you. It would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia.
And Slava Ukraina.
Героям слава.
Pegasoreise.de